Is this what people in the know would call a healthy correction, a bit of consolidation for the rand? Because we did see a pretty strong run at the beginning of the week. We
have indeed, Stephen. I mean, the rand was down at about 666 not so long ago. In fact, just last week. We've seen it as high as 687, so it's seemingly providing a little bit of resistance around the 85 level. As far as today's concerned, though, not much volatility there. I think the traders would certainly like to see a little bit more volatility. But, you know, when it comes to the rand at the moment, we unfortunately have one foot in the commodities country basket and another foot in the emerging market basket. So depending on which way global indications go, the rand gets hit on the upside or the downside.
So which one's working against us this week? Because we did have some reports at the beginning of the week saying that commodity prices could be inflated at current levels. We also had Chinese inflation data out this morning, which could point to more monetary tightening, which would, I presume, be bad for commodities. Is that what's working against the rand at the moment?
At the moment, Stephen, we seem to be following more the euro-dollar. You know, indications at the moment are for an overbought position on the euro. The euro is very, very strong. And seemingly, again, on the euro-dollar, just providing a bit of resistance around the 145 level. So we can see, you know, via the technical analysis that it's continually trying to break that level. Of course, we saw last week the ECB hiked interest rates by 25 basis points. So yes, there are a little bit of concerns around the Eurozone. There are a little bit of concerns around the commodities basket in general. But you know, the rand at the moment is holding up very, very strongly simply as a result of the carry trade and the search for yield. Globally, the investor is still on a search for yield path. And the rand, with its fundamentally strong economy at the moment, is holding up very, very well.
Well, we have seen some modest inflows, net inflows from foreign buyers coming back into our bond market. Just yesterday we had 652 million flowing into South African bonds net. Do you think this is something that's going to continue in the short term?
I certainly do. For as long as we have an interest rate differential between the developed markets and the developing markets staying fairly constant. Now, when I say fairly constant, we have indeed at least seen some rate hiking action, of course, as I mentioned, via the ECB. Australia, the RBA has hiked interest rates now 3 times already. They, of course, had to hold the monetary policy tightening for the sheer fact that they need to rebuild the economy after the flooding. That, in turn, though, will provide quite a nice impetus to their growth scenario. And, in fact, the Aussie dollar rand, or the Aussie dollar, should I say, is by far the strongest commodities producing emerging market at the moment. But just back to the rand, yes, I think you know, we've certainly seen a stronger rand environment. The Reserve Bank has been steadily accumulating in the market. There's no change in monetary policy there.
How do you see the euro-dollar moving forward from here? Because you said the rand was taking a skew from that movement. You mentioned some of the problems we're seeing in Europe. We have Greece busy trying to restructure its debts, or trying to not restructure its debts. We also have Ireland being downgraded again almost to junk status by Moody's yesterday. And that must be bad for the euro, but the US also has its own problems.
Absolutely. I think the main concern for us right now is not necessarily Greece and Ireland, because they have a slightly smaller impact on the Eurozone knock-on effects. The main concern really is, are we going to see a spillover into Spain, and what are the problems coming out of Spain? That indeed could spur a slightly weaker euro against the dollar.
The rand moving forward from here, would you expect it to resume that strengthening bias that we saw towards last week?
I think that's definitely, the bias is certainly, in my view, to a rand strengthening environment going into the next couple of weeks. We've obviously got the Easter holiday period coming up now. At the moment, because of the resistance we're seeing via a weaker rand, I certainly see there being a stronger probability of the rand strengthening over the next day or two going into the Easter period rather than weakening.
And we did have the finance minister speaking again yesterday and saying that the government and the Reserve Bank would continue with the measures that they have been taking to try and curb some of the volatility in the rand and some of the hot money coming into the rand. We have seen Forex controls relaxed. We've seen more buying of the rand. Do you think that could act against the rand in the short term?
I don't think so, Stephen. I think, you know, at the moment, again, if I just go back to the drivers of the rand, the drivers of the rand really are what is happening in the global economy, what is happening with global growth. We see the rand very, very strongly correlated to world GDP growth. So yes, there is a little bit of two-way uncertainty, and when we talk about global GDP growth, is it coming from China, is it coming from the US, what is happening in the Eurozone at the moment? But certainly I think there's a very good chance that the rand could remain stronger for longer.
Your view on those Chinese growth figures that came out this morning, 9.7%, I mean, it sounds pretty buoyant still in China.
It is indeed sounding very, very buoyant at the moment. I think, tongue-in-cheek, fair to say that sometimes reading into the numbers can provide a little bit of a two-way scenario in China at the moment. But I certainly think that there will be a slowdown in general in the global growth. To the extent that there's a bubble in China, no. My personal view is that the Chinese economy is holding up fairly, fairly well. I still see there continuing to be very strong support from a commodities perspective as well.